Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil. And in this video, I am going to do my first official farming guide for new players. This guide is designed to kind of take you through the initial stages of the game, right, from like point you download all the way up until you get your third Galactic Legend. I think the first 3 Galactic Legends in this game leading up to that point, I think it's a pretty good guide that, you know, you don't really need to deviate from it too much, that even in a year or two, this guide will still be very relevant. I think after that point, it's really hard to tell players to continue to farm, you know, all these other things, because there's so many things that change in this game that priorities could shift. But the guide I'm going to give, I think, gets you to the best point in the game at the time that it concludes, right? That you will have enough tools to compete at higher levels in the game in every single game mode possible. So before I go any further, please subscribe to my channel. It is free to you. It just helps me get these videos out there so more people can see them. And then leave a like and leave a comment. Let me know if you found this helpful, or if there are changes you wanted to see, things you didn't see in here that you were hoping to see. So yeah, let's get into it. So the first team we are going to build, right, first full team, is the Phoenix Squadron. Now, I do want to note that before we go into all these characters, right, that you're going to see, the gear levels on these characters are not indicative of what you should have them at when you're going through your first playthrough. A lot of times it's just going to be getting them to that gear level where they become relevant, right? So sometimes that's gear level 8, other times it's maybe like a gear 9 or 10. You'll kind of find that path of that happy medium where it's a good place to stop at. So this first team, Phoenix, it's going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone for you right away. It's going to get you Emperor Palpatine here, and it's going to get you Grand Admiral Thrawn. So by getting those 2 characters, right, those are 2 legendaries out of the way, you can start then building an Empire team. So what I would recommend is at least take them to 85. I know some people will say don't take them to 85. I do think it's important to kind of take characters to level 85 in the beginning. Yes, you are using credits, but I really think that it not only benefits you from a Grand Arena perspective, but I also think that it prepares you for the future, right? It gives you teams that you can use in multiple areas. So then we're going to work on our Empire characters. So again, this is kind of a, you guys will see that there's a couple of characters you can be working on here. This isn't saying that this is the order, but I kind of put them in that, like, Phoenix kind of leads you into building Empire, right? And then by getting Empire, you're going to unlock R2-D2 here. So before I get into the Rebels, Commander Luke here, I do want to mention that Darth Vader is probably the most important character early on in the game. He should be your first relic. He should be your first Zeta on Merciless Massacre here. He just kind of becomes a team of his own. So he's easily the most important character. A lot of people will tell you that. Just so important early on in the game. So we kind of get these characters. These are all Empire characters that you'll either get through the Phoenix or that are very easy to unlock, right? That we're not really having to do a lot of legwork to get them. Then we do want to start working on our Commander Luke unlock team, right? So as we're kind of working on those characters, we'll also want to begin working on our Jedi Knight Revan farm. So we're kind of working on those 2 things. We'll get Commander Luke, we'll have R2-D2, and then Han Solo is an unlock through the heroic pit raid, and so you'll kind of just get him no matter what. Once you get into a half-decent guild, you'll start earning his shards, and he kind of slots into this CLS team. And then these last 2 slots you can kind of throw anybody in, right? You could throw Old Ben or Han, whoever, right? Any Rebel slots in here perfectly fine. But the real bulk here is that we want to be working on our Jedi Knight Revan and Darth Revan farms. I would go Jedi Knight Revan first, especially because Jolee Bindo, I'd say Bastila Shan and Jolee Bindo, the 2 most important characters to get there first, because they're Jedi characters. And so if you've got Bastila, Jolee, Old Ben here, and then if we come back up, you've got Ezra and Kanan, you will be able to unlock Grandmaster Yoda. And Grandmaster Yoda goes really well with Jedi Knight Revan. And before that, under the Bastila Shan lead, he can do some really good things. So Bastila Shan is a really important early lead for Jedi. So I would go ahead, get Jedi Knight Revan, and then work on Darth Revan. And the reason we're doing that, first, is that this can kind of look like your Jedi team once you're done, right? Where you'll have Grandmaster Yoda, and you'll want to build Jedi Knight Anakin. He's kind of one of these characters that I slot in here as a, hey, this is a good project for you to do. You'll get a lot of use out of him later in the game. So by building this team right here, you'll have characters ready to get you into that next level, take those next steps, right? So you guys will see this team does some really good things. And then we're going to go ahead and get our Darth Revan and then Darth Malak. Malak is the, first huge milestone that you should hit, right? That is, to me, he's the first real milestone you'll hit where you'll have to do some, significant investment into your characters. I have guides for both the light side and dark side paths for Darth Malak, so if you haven't, if you're not sure how to complete those, I've got guides there. I can show you the minimum gear levels you'll need. You're going to do perfectly fine there. So once we get Darth Malak, what we'll have now is a couple of teams that maybe aren't fully complete, but they're good enough that you can be competing in Grand Arena, doing some damage in raids, getting through territory battles, doing some really important things, right? Early on, it's just about being able to do a little bit of a lot, and that way, as you progress and start being able to do more, you have stuff to build from. So then we're going to move into our first Galactic Legend farm. And the reason we pick Kylo Ren is there's a couple of reasons. Number one, the full First Order fleet under Hux is a great fleet, right? Those ships are all really good. It has a lot of uses. It can counter a lot of different fleets. Also, it's going to force you to farm up 3 of the bounty hunter ships, which are very, very good. They, especially the Houndstooth, probably the most plug-and-play ship out there. And then even Slave 1 has a lot of plug-and-play use. It's really good. The Xanadu Blood is a little bit more of a unique kind of ship, but again, it has uses, so there's more pilots there. You'll get Veteran Smuggler Han, just kind of, he slots in, he's a requirement. And then Darth Vader, who you should already have at relic levels, you just need to bump him to relic 7 for Kylo. The reason we want Kylo first, so I said the fleet, right, that he's got some good fleets, some other good ships necessary, but also because he can solo a lot of things. Not only can he solo the, heroic AAT, the challenge pit raid, or he can solo the heroic pit raid, the HAAT raid. He can also solo the heroic Sith raid, which allows you to get tons and tons of gear. He's an easy 4 out of 4 in GOTB. And then finally, in the challenge pit raid, he can get you 2%, which means you can start earning Relegate materials, and those are worth their weight in gold, right? So Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, he's very economical to get. He's probably the cheapest, I think he's the cheapest GL to get in terms of relic investments and gear. Just one of those GLs that I think really sets the tone for a good roster, especially with the current state of the game and where certain things are gated behind. He's a good starter GL. So once we've gotten Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, right, you'll gear him up, relic him. We want to start working on our Ewoks and Geonosians. Now, we don't want to invest too much in Ewoks. You want to do just enough to unlock C-3PO at 7 stars, right? So you guys will see here, this gear level, this team here is actually the team that did it. I did move their mods around, but there's plenty of guides out there to show you how to do that. And then as far as these Geonosians at gear 12, this is maybe a little bit more than necessary to unlock Padme, but this is a very easy way to get Wat Tambor shards, and that will get you into better and better guilds, right? Being able to earn Wat shards is a huge step along the way to becoming a better player. So once we do those two things, we can then begin our General Skywalker farm, right? We'll have Padme through the, through using Geos in her legendary event. C-3PO isn't unlocked through the Ewoks. General Kenobi, we're getting through the heroic AAT raid. Very easy to obtain, right? Shakti, she has a hard node farm, but not overly unobtainable. She has a lot of really good uses. And then Ahsoka Tano, she's very easy to get, no real struggle there. So I'm going to pause here for a second. So then you'll see I have this gas P4, right? General Skywalker P4, which is Separatists. I've got General Grievous there, and then you'll see General Skywalker down here. The 501st, these clones, you can do one of two things. So if you want to delay your General Skywalker farm for a little bit, you can go ahead and farm up these clones right here, right? The original 501st, you can farm them up and put them under Shock T there. She has a leadership that affects clones, right? It's actually a very good leadership, and so they can do a lot of really good things underneath her. So that's kind of up to you whether you want to rush General Skywalker and maybe almost use him in like a Galactic Republic team or in a Jedi Knight Revan team for a little bit until you get your 501st up and running, because the 501st is where he's best utilized, right? That is where he's best used, is with this team, but it just depends on when you want to delay that farm, when you want to do that farm, whether you want to delay General Skywalker, have a clone team ready, or get him early. I wouldn't say there's a right way or a wrong way, it's just differences of opinion, right? But you will need to get these characters here for General Skywalker P4. Now, once you do that, and before you move on from this, I have General Grievous sitting here, and that's because Asajj Ventress doesn't have any real synergy with Separatists. She's just kind of part of the event. But General Grievous with these 4 droids is a phenomenal team. He's worth putting some decent gear on, worth investing the Zetas. This team is just so good. And so this is kind of one of those things that, we can really, really benefit from investing in a single character and taking us to a completely different level with these droids, right? So again, we've got those characters and we've got our General Skywalker. So now we're going to move into our Jedi Master Luke farm. Jedi Master Luke is the second GL here. Yes, he's expensive. I will not, lie there. He is very expensive to get, requires a lot of characters. However, he easily has the best requirements when it comes to teams in the game. You are going to get a Commander Luke Skywalker team, a full Commander Luke Skywalker team. You're going to get Mon Mothma and 3 Rebel fighters. Now, it's not the best Rebel fighters, but you're still going to get a team that you can use there. You're going to get Jedi Knight Luke, Hermit Yoda, with your Jedi Master Luke, who are top tier teams, right? And then you'll have some ancillary rebels that you can use in other areas of the game, right? So by getting Jedi Master Luke, you kind of open up a lot of doors to, really having a couple of teams that are really good. And with having Jedi Knight Revan already, he kind of works well with Jedi Master Luke. You'll have, Grandmaster Yoda who can work well. There's a lot of characters you'll have already here to help you along the way. So the first 2 characters we want to build are Chewbacca and 3PO and Chewie. So Chewbacca you need bounty hunters for. By this point you should have plenty of bounty hunters to choose from, so it's really just making sure that Bossk, Boba, and I would even say Dengar are 3 of them. And then if you want like Cad Bane, IG-88, Jango, you can't go wrong with any of those. They're all needed for something, right? So getting these 2 Wookiees out of the way, complete your CLS team, makes you almost, that team just really turns into one of the best in the game. Then you're going to have Hermit Yoda and the GOAT Wampa. Wampa is a solo artist in GAC, particularly with his Omicron. It just turns him into an absolute monster, more than he already is. But they both are needed with Guild Event Currency 1. However, Wampa is available through a special bounty hunter event that comes around like every other month, and you can get 40 shards of him by completing that tier with the right gear level bounty hunters. So he is absolutely one that if you get good enough bounty hunters and can do that event, just focus on Wampa and it will save you so much Guild Event currency that it will shock you. Otherwise, Hermit Yoda, there's no way around it. You just need to use your Guild Event Currency 1 and get him. So then you need to start building for Jedi Knight Luke. The Jedi Knight Luke requirements, they're already all been listed except for these 3 here, where it's Lando, Captain Han, Rebel Officer Leia Organa. Again, there's relic requirements. You just have to follow along with them. And then we're going to go ahead and get the rest of our JML requirements out of the way here. So you guys will see that, we've got Jedi Knight Luke, you've got the Hermit Yoda, Old Ben, Rey, Jedi Training Rey, and then we need to get these characters up to their applicable relic levels. These are all things that, as you're working through, there's other certain requirements like ships, right, that you'll work through them. You'll see them and you'll prepare for them. For Luke, you need for Jedi Knight Luke, you're going to need the Millennium Falcon, but you're already going to have your bounty hunters ready to go, which is why I recommend IG-88. Then, once you get Jedi Master Luke, it's time to work on our Imperial Troopers. That's because Imperial Troopers are probably the best, counter to they're the best answer to a lot of teams in the game. They're really good with banners. They're really good in GOTB. 3 of the 4 of them are required for Sith Eternal, and Admiral Piet is the fleet commander for the Executor fleet, which is the second best fleet in the game. So what I recommend doing is building up at least Veers, Piet, and Stark, and then Dark Trooper's here because he's the backbone of the damage. He's actually accessible very, very early on in the game, so even at lower levels, he can still do a lot of good damage. But he's one that I would recommend getting to relic levels because he is just so good. So once we get our troopers, we want to start working on the rest of our Executor lineup. So we need to get Beskar Mando. I have a video to show you how to get Beskar Mando without having to invest tons of gear into these characters here, and that's because all of these characters are, yes, they're good, but Beskar Mando, we're just putting him in Executor right now. We're not building this scoundrel team. So then we want to get Executor. Now, IG-88 is here, and I mentioned him before that to get Jedi Knight Luke, we need his ship to unlock the Millennium Falcon. And so that's kind of why we're working in this order, is that to get the Millennium Falcon, you don't need relics on your bounty hunters. You just need half-decent gear levels. So you're kind of working in this order that, you know, we're going to get the Millennium Falcon with lower level bounty hunters, but we've already got all of their ships at 7-star ready to go so that we can get the Executor here. So Dengar and TIE Fighter Pilot, you just have to get there. You know, you need TIE Fighter Pilot ship. Now you do need the Razor Crest, which is why Beskar Mando's here. So Razor Crest is available through the fleet shipments, and then it is in the Proving Grounds for Conquest. So I would assume by the time you hit Jedi Master Luke, you're probably at 4 million GP with this guide, I would assume. Between ships and other things, you're going to be right there. So if you don't already have a Razor Crest 7-star by that point, you can start getting it through Proving Grounds as well and get your Executor, because that will take your roster to a completely different level. And then after Executor, you know, I mentioned Proving Grounds, right, that it unlocks at 4 million. That's when you can start getting Commander Tano. She is gated that you cannot earn anything of Commander Tano until you hit 4 million, whereas Razor Crest, you can start buying those shards as soon as you get the fleet store. So Jedi Master Kenobi being the third Galactic Legend here. This is sort of a flex spot that if you'd rather get something else, you can pivot that, whether it would be Lord Vader or Sith Eternal, Rey, Jabba, whatever, right? I recommend Kenobi just because you will have built a lot of the requirements for him along the way already. He has a lot to offer in GAC with the Qui-Gon Jinn, Omicron. He's just a really good character, but only with Commander Tano. So that's kind of the pivot here, right, is that you do need Commander Tano to get the most out of him. And so if you're earning her shards already, and then you start working on his requirements, by the time you get Commander Tano, start gearing her up, you're probably ready for Kenobi. So that's kind of where I stop this guide. I could keep going on and on about what I think, but overall, I think this gets you to the point where by the time you'll have Kenobi, you're already soloing raids with Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. Jedi Master Luke is just a great GL. He counters almost everything in the game, right? And what Jedi Master Luke struggles with Sith Eternal, Kylo solos. So you're going to have plenty of counters available to you. You'll have a couple of backbone teams that'll be really, really helpful. And then you'll be ready to kind of pivot into whatever comes next. So hopefully this guide helps you guys along the way. I know it's a longer video, but I wanted to get one of these out here. I could, do another part 2 to this to say here's what I would do next, but I don't think it's going to, like this guide I feel pretty confident with that it's going to stay, current, and that even if new things come into play, that this is still the best way to go through the game for the next year. But after this point, I think there could be a lot of change. There's a lot of different ways to go, and none of them are necessarily wrong. So with that, guys, if you're still watching, go ahead in the comments and write Wampa is the GOAT. And then make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers.